let me go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Marie Concannon. I'm the head of Government Information and Data Archives here at MU Libraries. I've been doing this for 18 years, and over all that time there have been a lot of changes in the way that we look for statistics. In some ways it's a lot easier, and in some ways it's actually more difficult. In the ways that it's easier is that we now have so many resources available to us electronically. In searching for things online, you can really pull up a whole lot more than what you could in the past. The downside of these modern times is that our government has less money to work with. At least they have less allocated or appropriated for the kinds of services that would provide statistics to the public. So we actually have a big hurdle there when we've got agencies like the Census Bureau who are trying to do their jobs with a whole lot less funding than what they really need to do it. So their resources are not as easy to use as they have been in the past. Fortunately, your library provides a service by having real live people like me who can help you navigate the world of the internet. I think it would be a wonderful thing if every town in America could have a building like a bank or a grocery store, which would be called Internet Help, where you could walk in and there'd be a nice smiling person in there to help you figure out something with the internet. But we don't have any resource or service like that in our society. The closest you can get is your library. So even though the kinds of information that I would help you get is not necessarily physically in our library building, we have this service where we can help you find information even if it's on the internet and even if it's not our website. So with that introduction, I should also say that obviously from my job title, my specialty is any information that comes from the government. And that would include our U.S. federal government, it would include state governments, and even local governments, and to the degree that I'm able, foreign governments. I don't speak every language though, and it's not, I can't say that I get, that I can really get stuff out of websites that aren't written in English, but it is technically part of what I help people find. So now that I've introduced myself, I would like to find out a little bit about the people who have joined us today. I don't need to know your name or any personally identifiable information for privacy reasons. But in order to give you the best presentation today, I'd like to know what you hope to find for your own research projects and why you signed up to be with us today. Then as I talk over the course of this upcoming hour, I'll be able to tailor what I say so that it meets your needs. So I'm going to ask that for those of you virtually to go ahead and use the chat box to type that in. And while you're typing, I'm going to ask those of us who are here in the room what their interests are. So, any volunteers? You know, I'm not gonna say that you have to tell me what your topic is, but if you would like to tell me what your area of research is, I would use that as I talk about the resources over the coming hour. Tell you what, I'll just take a show of hands. If anybody wants to, if anybody wants, oh, you have some online people. Okay.
Yeah, someone said data on federal policies of various types. Well, yeah, you can say it closer to them. Okay. Data on policies of various types? Federal policies of various
Okay, so one of us here is studying, they want to find data about policies, and government policies. So I'm imagining that what they're looking for is some evidence to show how well these policies are working. Are people getting served better than they were before the policies were put in place, or are things going downhill? And that's a really interesting question, and it's a really useful thing to be studying. So whoever you are out there, I congratulate you on studying something of such importance to our society. So that's great. And by the way, for whoever you are who put that in, I want to give you a special tip. 3 letters, GAO. If you type in gao.gov, you're going to find probably what's going to become your favorite website. It's called Government Accountability Office, and that's exactly what they do. Their purpose for existing is they analyze government policies and they see how well they work, and they provide statistics and data. So take that down as part of your notes. Who else do we have here? Oh, we got someone who's got his hand up in our room.
I'm a professor in marketing,
Okay.
and I'm here to find out what kinds of competitive information might be available in industries. For example, I work on marketing problems in insurance industry. And so, would the government have statistics on something about the competitive providers of insurance? Is it a state? Would they have anything like that on generally in terms of competition in industries that one can get some access or sense of the nature of the market?
Okay, so I'm not sure if you all on virtually heard that. So we have someone here who specializes in marketing, and they're specifically interested in the insurance industry, and they want to know what information, data, or statistics the government might have about companies, insurance companies. Okay, so that's interesting too, because sometimes when we think about statistics, we might automatically think statistics about people. Like how old are people? How children, do they have health insurance? I mean, there's a lot of things that we think of with statistics, but there can also be government statistics about industry and about business. So that's useful to know. We'll keep that in mind as we move forward. Okay, we have a virtual person. Yep.
A PhD student in personal finance planning, looking at generational and gender differences in retirement planning and preparedness. Also taking notes for a colleague whose research interest is long-term and or end-of-life care for those in the LGBT community.
Wow, that was long. And they heard you say that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then I don't have to paraphrase that. Okay. So you guys, it sounds like you in personal financial planning, you're trying to find out what kind of characteristics people have who tend to take certain actions with their personal finances. How is it different between men and women? And when you're looking at statistical tables, so often the statistics will be divided out by demographic factors like age, gender, sometimes LGBTQ, sometimes sexual orientation, but probably the sexual orientation is not, you won't find that quite as frequently in government resources, because you got to think about whenever the government is collecting information from people and about people, if they ask them to self-report certain things, people can feel uncomfortable about privacy issues. And I have to say, from all the government statistical tables that I've seen, I definitely see a whole lot more that provide those standard demographic breakouts like age, race, sex. Often you can find political affiliation if people self-describe as Democrat or Republican. Sometimes you can get that more often. But the sexual orientation, not quite as much. So that's a very interesting question for that kind of thing. Sometimes we actually look to non-government sources to find you the statistics. Our library is certainly happy to help you with that. And it kind of makes me think of something else that could come into play with any of you here, and that is what you can use if there actually is no source for the statistics that you'd want. Okay, a perfect example, the kind of example I give is if somebody wants statistics on how many people in Columbia, Missouri are smoking marijuana on a weekly basis. Okay, you think if a representative of the government is going to come out and ask people that question, how many people would actually answer honestly? There's some kinds of questions that the government is just not going to get data because it's, well, in that case, it's something that's illegal. People are not necessarily going to self-report, and the government is not necessarily even going to try to ask. If you're in a situation where you want information that has never been officially collected, sometimes you can use proxy data, proxy variables. And the classic one classic one that they've used to try to detect marijuana growing is the amount of electricity that is being used by individual households. Because I think if people are growing things inside, they take more electricity, and it's a very interesting proxy variable about, and it wouldn't tell how many people are using the marijuana, of course, but it might tell about maybe about how many people are growing it indoors at least. So it happens, you know, when you're reading secondary source literature where the person is studying something that nobody really has the answer to, they might choose to use a proxy variable like that in order to kind of suggest what the real information is, and then they would definitely need to provide the information in the methodology section of their paper about why they're using the kind of proxy variable that they have chosen. So just wanted to throw that in as an item of interest. So not to be discouraged if you can't find the exact statistics you want, you may be able to kind of get at it from an indirect way. Anybody else in the room want to share your topic? It's optional. Oh, yeah?
Well, we spoke before and then looking at the college students that identify as homeless.
Okay.
I was trying to find that information to be able to form.
Okay, so we have one person here who's studying homeless college students, and you might think that that might be a challenging thing to find, you know, except for she has already done some of her homework already, and she knows that for college students who are filling out their financial aid forms, there's a box that they can check that indicates that they're homeless. So she's wanting more, as much as she can get from the forms that get turned into the Department of Education. Now and that's another interesting thing when you're looking for statistics. Sometimes you know that information does get reported to the government because you know a form exists and people are required to fill it out. So you know that the government agency has the data. The question then becomes, have they actually printed it up? Have they reported that data that they're receiving in some kind of statistical compendium that's available online, you know, on their website? And if it's not, then how do you get at it? So, for example, we know that college students are reporting, they can report that they're homeless or not. If we don't find that easily through the Department of Education's regular website, it could be because the Department of Education thinks that it would be too easy to figure out who's homeless. Now that might sound a little bit funny, like how could a person figure that out? But there's actually a lot of government data that is suppressed because people could be able to figure it out. To give you an example, let's take the census. Sometimes you want to know how many college students are renting in a certain neighborhood, okay, maybe near campus, something like that. You can't really get very much information about the people who live in a neighborhood because they don't want people to be able to figure out who answered what, okay? Once you get down to when you have a small number of people in a statistical data set, the greater the chance that you won't be able to get it. So for this particular student's needs, finding information about homeless students is, I'd say, definitely a definite possibility if she's looking for nationwide counts. If she should want just homeless students who are attending the University of Missouri or Moberly Area Community College or something like that, that's probably going to be harder just because the number of people who have self-identified is going to be so much lower. So, what else have we got? Another question here?
So, my research, because I looked at K-12 education policy, I looked at federal, and then I looked at state and local education policies, and I determined how those policies either create or exacerbate inequitable outcomes for students of color and students with disabilities.
Wow, okay. So this question, the next person in our room described a research project which also takes a look at the effects of government policies, both on the federal and on the state level. She wants to know how that affects the students overall. So she's going to be looking for statistics and data that show the outcomes. And she's going to want particular breakdowns too. She's going to want breakdowns by race and by, did you say disability status? Okay, disability. Was there any other breakdowns? Yeah. This is something that I experience a lot when I'm helping people finding statistics. The rationale of their research project is so good, and it's going to be such a useful, it's going to be so useful when they come out with their results. It's the kind of thing that we want to tell our government representatives from academia. We've done this research. We've used your data, your government data, and here's what we found. Now take a look at what we found. And that's exactly how our government is supposed to work and how our society is supposed to work. We use the data that comes from government, we discover things, and we provide that information back to government so that they can make adjustments. Sometimes, nothing is ever easy, right? Sometimes it's easy, but sometimes it's not. What we find is we can get so close to what you want. Like we may be able to get everything you want except for that breakdown by disability status is just eluding us, Maybe we can get the race, and that's usually something that they do provide, that's easier to get. But the disability status, we could be really looking, we could feel like we're so close. Maybe we've even taken a look at the intake forms, and we know that they have to report that kind of thing. It's just not published anywhere. And when it gets to that point, sometimes the researcher needs to move into the next level of data gathering, and that is to look at actual microdata for actual individuals. And that makes me want to kind of just take a moment and describe the difference between what I consider statistics and data. Now, the word data does seem to sometimes, we use that word to describe what we think of as statistics too. Because it's so squishy, the difference between the two, I wanted to explain how I refer to them differently. If you want a table of statistics, you might conceivably find that in some kind of a published book somewhere in the library. It'd be a table and would show, okay, this is kindergarten students, and this is the percentage of them who have experienced this sort of level, it's the grades, okay, or whatever. Anyway, it would just show rows and columns and be very neat on one page. If you can't find any pages anywhere that describe the breakdowns you want, then you go to microdata. With microdata, you're going to get a machine-readable data set, a data file, that is going to provide, just imagine in your mind's eye, a rectangular box of numbers, just digits, rows and columns, and it's a perfect rectangle, okay? Imagine that the very first row, the top row of numbers in that rectangular box of numbers is data from one single kindergarten student, okay? The very first two numbers in that top row is either going to be a 01 or a 02. The 01 is going to mean that it's a male. The 02 is going to mean it's a female, okay? Then the next two numbers will be their age. 05 is going to mean that they're aged 5 years old. The next two numbers might be their race, and just randomly just picking numbers, and we say maybe 02 means African American. Now, and then suppose that this rectangular box of numbers actually has 10,000 rows in it. So you're looking at 10,000 kindergarten students, okay? You want to be able to look at the numbers that indicate their race, or the numbers that are coded to mean disabled status, and then compare that to somewhere else in this rectangular box of numbers which talks about their grades. And if you can use a statistical data product like Stata or R or SPSS or SAS, you'll be able to generate your own statistics. Okay, so sometimes if you cannot get what you want in a published form, you can use data sets, microdata, the kind of thing where you're actually given data on actual individuals with the personally identifiable information stripped out, so you'll never be able to figure out who they are. And then you can generate those statistical tables that you couldn't find published anywhere, and then you can write your report, and you can show it to government representatives and possibly get some needed changes made. In this session today, I am going to talk a little bit also about how you can find those raw data sets, the microdata, that you have to use a statistical software product like Stata or R for, in addition to telling you how to find tables of statistics. So I'm going to cover both. All right. Anybody else online? So we covered everybody? Okay. All right. Some things I want to show you on our library website. From our library homepage, if you go to libraries A to Z and you go down to D, you're going to see data sets for quantitative research. When I talked about microdata just now, this is kind of our homepage for helping people find that microdata. We've got two major sources for microdata. We've got the ICPSR and the Roper Center. The ICPSR covers all topics, but it tends to be social and political. We've got some business stuff in there too, marketing. However, you're probably not going to find a whole lot of ICPSR stuff that talks about businesses or corporations. It's usually the object that's studied is usually individuals, okay? The Roper Center is all about individuals because the full name for that is Roper Center for Public Opinion Research, and everything that the Roper Center provides, Roper Center for Public Opinion Research, is from questionnaires that got distributed to the public asking about their attitudes or about their behaviors, usually about their attitudes. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Like for that, you could find out what people think about educational policy. So if you want the public opinion about No Child Left Behind, you can get that here, but you won't necessarily find the information about how the students are actually doing in their classes. So it's just something to go along with it. Now, both ICPSR and the Roper Center, oops, I went back too far. Both ICPSR and the Roper Center have a special feature on their websites which will allow you to do online analysis. What I mean by that is you don't have to know those statistical software products like Stata and R that I just a minute ago told you that you had to know, okay? They have kind of a quick and dirty feature on their site where you can take any data set that they provide, we're talking the microdata data sets, and you can choose any two variables out of that data set and put them, just throw them into a table with one being the rows and one being the columns, and then figure out whether there's any reasonable relationship between those two. Let me just show you a very quick example. I'm in the ICPSR page. View all studies for which online analysis is available. And let's do the 500 family study. I have no idea what that's about, but let's just go ahead and do it. This is just for a example search. Where it says analyze online, simple cross-trad frequency or SDA. There are two different ways of doing the same thing. I'll try that one, SDA. We'll just say we pretend we read all that and agree. I have agreed to the terms of service. Okay, so here's where you say, I want this to be in a row, I want this to be in a column, and I want to see how it looks. Let's do some variables. There, put that in. Oh boy. Teen has allergy. I don't know. I'm just throwing two different things. And run the table. Oops, didn't find one. Do something different. Okay, teen caffeine use. I think it might want me to type in that tea caffeine and teen gets physical exercise. TEXCCISE. Okay, let's see. Okay, so you see how it just put those two together? Was there any relationship between their using of caffeine and they're getting exercise? So you can take any two variables out of a whole data set, and any of these data sets could have hundreds. So if you wanted to put in a disability, variable in there, and then you put in grade level, A student, B student, and you can, it's out there for you. If you need anything more complicated than just comparing two, then you do have to go to that specialized software. Is this all making sense so far? Okay. I have to say that I kind of jumped into the deep end of the pool by telling you about these this ICPSR and the Roper Center. It is possible to look for just statistical tables that are already done for you. Let me go back to our home page. And I have a little cheat sheet up here. Things I wanted to cover with you today. Differentiating between statistics and data sets for quantitative research. I just did that. I showed you about the ICPSR and the Roper Center. And I've told you about the online analysis options. I said sometimes you can find that microdata from the actual government agencies. So ICPSR and the Roper Center are two subscription services that our library pays for. After you graduate, you might not have access to it anymore, but you will have access to the government's own data. And I know that I was talking to another person in our room today, just the other day, about the National Center for Education Statistics and how they have a website called Data Lab where they provide all their microdata for K through 12 and higher education. So it's really similar to this ICPSR stuff. And if you like the ICPSR interface, you may find a lot of those government data sets that are on their own sites may be over in ICPSR too. So if you like the online analysis feature, suppose you happen to discover something by looking in Data Lab on the National Center for Education Statistics, just see if it's also in ICPSR, because then you can try that handy online analysis, because I don't think that the government website has that feature. Do you guys use, oh, you told me you do use R or Stata. Stata, very good. Congratulations to you. I know that those programs are not that easy to learn sometimes, and I don't know them myself. I have to tell you that. So now let me tell you about this. Using the Statistical Abstract of the United States to determine which agency collects certain statistics. This has always been the classic librarian hack. I have to tell you, and Cindy, my colleague, is here. She's laughing and nodding her head, you know, with great determination. Yes, we've always done this. We work at the reference desk. People come up to us and they ask any question in the universe. And then librarians sometimes look, you know, quite knowledgeable because we're able to just fairly quickly, you know, say, okay, well, that would be collected by the X agency. This is how we do it. And this is so easy and simple. We just go to the what's this? Certificate error. All right. It's going to it anyway. Okay, that's good. The government has been publishing this annual compendium called the Statistical Abstract since the late 1800s. I think maybe back to 1880 or something like that. All of the top most in-demand statistics from every part of government is going to be included in this. And so if somebody's looking for, okay, let's do one of our online, our virtual participants topics. You're looking at personal savings rate, savings for retirement. Okay, and you want data, or say you want statistics for that, and you have no idea maybe where to find that. If you go into the Statistical Abstract, I'm going to go into this one for 2012. 2012 is the most recent, thanks to government budget cuts. 2012 is the most recent, and it's still going to be fairly current for our purposes. You can go in and income, expenditures, poverty, and wealth. That sounds like a fairly good bet. There's also a back of the book index in all of these things, in case the table of contents doesn't work out for you. Oh, and here's all the, looks like Excel files for different things. Savings and investment, we're getting closer. Expenditures, I like that savings and investment. I need to do a Control F and see if I can find retirement. I'm not finding that. Here's personal savings. Compositions of individual savings. Well, I don't want to get too far into. Okay, time savings deposits, money market shares, saying how much people have got. Now, it's not broken down exactly the way she wants. I know that she wants to see how much people have been saving for the retirement based on how old they are and whether they're a man or a woman. And she might like to do even further than that, like what's their reported occupation and things like that. So if you want to get further, you can at least see, okay, so one government agency is collecting information about this stuff. Let's see who it is. You go down to the bottom and you discover that the source was the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve System. So now you're a lot further away. You're definitely on your way to getting to the right federal agency. If we go to the Federal Reserve website, we can look to see what statistical tables they have, and that's the favorite librarian hack. You know, if you remember nothing else, you can remember this, and this is the kind of thing that's also going to help with business for sure. The business statistics and the business data and the marketing and that kind of stuff, because this includes not just demographics. Even though the Statistical Abstract is technically a Census Bureau product, they cover all of the government agencies. Okay. Kind of leads me over to, I want to tell you about another site. It's called FedStats. Your window into U.S. federal statistics. This is another way, it's another site that tries to cover the entire federal government's statistical resources. This site is not, it's a shadow of what it used to be. It used to be phenomenal. Now it's, I almost wonder if it's kept up to date by computers, you know. But it's kind of okay. I still like their agency list, where you can see the principal statistical agencies and then additional agencies, all of which provide statistics. And sometimes you can go through here and just see the major federal agencies that are collecting statistics, and you can kind of figure stuff out. Statistics of income, you know, that's an IRS product, but find Federal Reserve. Oh, Federal Reserve isn't in there. I think that's because they're either they're a quasi-government agency, or there's something about them that makes them not technically a government agency, but nevertheless, you know, it was nice that the Statistical Abstract of the U.S. covered them. They don't seem to be here because of their quasi-status. At any rate, this is a real nice place to look. And I can tell you, just by glancing through this list, this really is a list of some of the best federal agencies that provide statistics. I wish that they would go directly into the part of their website that has statistics. Unfortunately, they don't do that. They just take you to their homepage and drop you off, and hopefully you can get there. But a few of these, they do entirely, all they do is statistics, like the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's all they do. That's 100% of what they do is just statistics. So this is a vast, vast site just by itself. Getting back to the business people, there's a census of economic census is what they call it, and that's where you get the object that they view is at the business level. They're looking at businesses, not at individuals. So that's probably here as well. Let's see what else I want to make sure I cover for you. Okay, so that's our favorite librarian hack. Use the Statistical Abstract and see how far you can get. Here are some other things. The Census Bureau. I'm always surprised at how much they cover that I wouldn't expected that they would have. If you go to the Census Bureau website, they have an index A to Z. It's always right up here in the corner, and you can see everything that they've got. You know, I've always been surprised. People who ask about voting participation, I wouldn't have expected that the census does that, but they do. And you can find that out. I think it's, for any of you who are in on this call today or who are here participating, I would definitely recommend that you look through the Census A to Z list and see if your topic is here, okay? You might be surprised. Other things I'll show you about. Oh, and by the way, so that you don't have to be scribbling or copying and pasting or anything, this sheet here that I've got here up on my screen, I will be happy to email this to everybody who registered today so that you can go through what I talked about and hopefully find it again. And this is it, by the way. I'm making this simple. It's just this. Okay, that's all we've got. So it won't be hard for you to get back to it. Almost well, not almost everybody, a lot of the people who come to us for help are looking for demographics. They're looking for a topic, but the demographic element is going to be a really important part of it because they want to do breakdowns by race or sex or age or something else. And American FactFinder is the census's tool that will help you find all of that stuff. If you go here, you're going to find population statistics. You're going to find housing statistics. Let me show you. I'll just go through a few screens and let you know. I like the guided search best. The advanced search, I can get a little bit lost, even me, but the guided search really seems to work quite well. And you say, I want information about, this is what it's going to cover. Information about people, like their sex, income, poverty, education, information about housing. You can use this to find information about businesses or industries, because this covers not only population housing, it also covers that economic census. There's other censuses, the census of governments, for example. How much is the government spending on this or that or the other thing? That's all there. Not on the American FactFinder website, unfortunately, but just FYI, because I think this is pretty important. If you ever want to know how much any level of government is spending on anything, we're talking federal level, state level, county level, and possibly municipal, but I'm not 100% sure about that one. You want to know how much they're spending on education, on firefighting, on sewers, on anything? You can find that in the Census of Government. So anyway, that's the main stuff it includes. Whose topics have I not covered yet? I want to make sure I use everybody's topic as an example at least sometime in this. Oh, well, can you help me? Is there any topics that I haven't covered?
I only talk about the federal policies.
Federal policies.
The retirement.
Oh, okay. Federal, yes.
Use this FactFinder to cross-reference education demographics.
Oh, yeah, you can definitely use it for education. Since we have we have 3 people here who are doing education. Let's just go into it and I'll show you what it's like. So we're looking for information about people. Now, not about schools. If you want information about the school or school district, that's a different object that you're looking at. This is about people. So we'll go next. And we can say we want a disability status thing. If you just click it and it just drops over there, we can say that we are also interested in, actually, let me take that out for a second. Because it's mainly about education. So, educational attainment, field of degree, school enrollment, school type, vocational education. Let's say educational attainment because it's simple. That would be, what the person graduated from high school or college or how far they got. And I'm a little uncomfortable about putting another thing in here because I don't think that those 2 tables are going to overlap. I'm just going to go with educational attainment and go next. And now we're going to say, what kind of place? Do you want county level? Census tracts? Do you want state? Let's do county. And we're going to pick a state. We'll say we want it for Missouri. And let's just say our own county. How about that? Boone County. Add. So now we're doing educational attainment in Boone County, and there's still over 1,000 tables. Next. And we can select racial groups here. Select from basic groups, and let's choose that one. Now we're down to 45 tables. And there they are. Not bad, huh? And so these are all the different choices you can choose from. I'm going to choose one random. Sex by educational attainment for the population 25 years or older. Just Black or African American alone, not mixed. And that's the actual numbers. This is the numbers estimate of the number of people in Boone County, male and female, who have educational attainments of various kinds. So now when you get to the point where you want to add in disability status in there, okay, when that happens, I can practically guarantee you're not going to get it at the county level because it might become personally identifiable. You have to go up to a higher geography for that. Does that help? See how you can use this? And then I would say just go back, go into the disability status and see what it gives. No, I'm so tempted to do it right now, but I have so much to show you. I don't want to get too caught up. Just remember the American FactFinder is your friend. And go back to my cheat sheet here.
There was one on business and industry, what would that show you?
Oh, well,
Just as you clicked.
yeah.
I think on one of the earlier pages.
yes. Well, it's going to show you how how big those, well, it's hard to explain. Let me go back into it
Yeah.
just real quick.
Let's take a look how that.
Absolutely, absolutely. American Fact Finder. Okay, I want to cancel everything, kind of like reload this page. Sometimes it saves your search if you're not careful. So I'm going to go back into guided search, get me started. I'm going to information about businesses, and we'll say next. And now we've got, all right, business characteristics. That's about the people who own the businesses. Employment, that's number of establishments or firms in different industries. So if you want to just zero in on just the insurance, let's see what we got. Establishments with or without payroll, firms. Let's go to establishments with payroll. But
Even if you look at concentration of firms.
oh, okay. Now there's only 113 tables there, so we don't have to probably narrow that down too much more in order to get a look at it. Let's see. I'm going to do county again just to see. This selected geographic type is not available, and that's where it got into like privacy stuff. They're a little concerned that people will figure out what business it is. So if we go up to state, now we can choose Missouri. Oops. I was already there. All states. Add. And now there's just 7 tables left. Oh, what's this? Oh, this is where you could say what industry you want. So this is where you say you want the insurance industry. And if you have that NAICS code, North American Industry Classification, then you'll be able to get into it. See how they got the utilities and the manufacturing and so on. Yeah. So let's just pick one random one, furniture. I'm sure that there's probably a way to search quickly and get to it, but. Next. So these are the 3 available. Share of value of shipments in the furniture industry by state. It's definitely worth exploring and seeing what you can get out of there. If you guys should want earlier statistics to compare, sometimes people are looking for trends, we've got the earlier in the library building in paper form. Okay. Our economic statistics go back decades and decades, in case you're ever looking for something like that. Okay. State level. Is anybody in the room doing state level? Probably some of you could. Yeah, okay. So I wanted to tell you about this pretty cool website. If you were to go into Google and type Godort, G-O-D-O-R-T, State Agency Databases Project, you get to this. And this is for every state. They'll show you all the databases that we were able to find. And this is a source that was done by librarians all across the country. And let me show you what this is like. Missouri State Agency Databases. And these are the databases that from the state government on business and finance, on education, on government agencies, health and medicine. I'm not sure our state agencies do a whole lot with the personal financial planning very much. I think you get more of that from Federal Reserve, frankly. But try it and see what you can get here. Not all of these databases are going to be quantitative. Some of them are going to be licensed. Now, people have to have professional licenses that are provided by the state government. So you don't necessarily need to see a list of everybody who's a licensed, landscape architect. But some of these are going to be quantitative databases. So just FYI that's there. It's a wonderful resource. Whoa, we got Dexter and UExplore. Okay, I personally think this is the coolest site. This is from the Missouri Census Data Center. It is not necessarily, look at this main page and you might feel a little overwhelmed, but I love to show people this page because once you get into it, you feel like such a power user. You kind of have to know the census a little bit to know what you're looking at, but I'm going to show you what this is like. We're going to go into the American Community Survey, which is the current, basically, census, okay? When people ask for, they go door to door and they ask for your census and your demographic information, people in your household. You go into this and bear with me for a second. I'm just going to try to get to the spot, but I want to do a demo once I get inside it. Hold on. This is just a demo. Okay. Getting closer. These are the data sets that are available on the internet, freely available, and they're letting you know that they've got school district data, like this. They've got just demographic data, geographic levels, replace levels, zip code data. Essentially what this is a way to generate the census table that you want. It is a free online resource that will let you choose the census survey, whether it's a decennial census, whether it's American Community Survey, whether it's sales tax data. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here. If you were never able to get the breakdowns that you wanted, okay, by looking at some of the census website sources itself, you can do it here, and you can actually do queries where you are looking for a certain kind of situation. Say you want to know, out of all the counties in the United States, you want to know which counties have the greatest percentage of people who are of disabled children, okay? And you want it to sort. You can just do so much more. After you learn the site, you become more of a power user of census data. I realize now that I'm showing this to you that this site by itself, if I really wanted to show it to you, it could take an hour by itself, okay, just to get into it. I just want you to know that it exists. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. That just that you knowing that it exists means that you can come and ask me if you have not yet been able to get exactly what you want, because once I know your question, I'll be able to know whether this site could help you, and if so, I'll show you how to use it. I think a lot of my goal in just talking to you today is for everybody to go away with something that they didn't know about before. You know, everybody's coming here with something slightly different, a different research goal in mind. And if each of you go away with 2 or 3 tips that you didn't know about before that are going to help you, that's really what I'm hoping for. Let me go back to my list here. Okay, last but not least, we do have actual databases that we've paid for, and one is this one called Data Planet. We're going to go to our library home database. I'll put in Data Planet, and there it is. If you're off campus, you'd be asked to authenticate before you get into this because it's one of our library subscription resources. But what's nice about Data Planet, it covers statistics from all the different parts of government, plus statistics that are not from government, from other sources. They put it all together for you, and they try to make it so that you can type in a word. Let's put in insurance, because we haven't really, look at that. Okay, and they've got 393 tables that are about insurance in one way or another. One of the wonderful things about Data Planet is it will provide charts, graphs, and tables as part of the service they provide. Is they allow you to make charts, graphs, and tables, and they allow you to specify how you want those tables to appear and what kind of data you want to be in them. It was a while back that I took a training on this particular product, so I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head how you do it, but I do know that it's possible to generate that kind of output that's real nice for you to just put right into your papers. Looks so slick, when you can do that. You're also going to find education in here for sure. Give it a shot. Personal finance people, I wonder if we might get real lucky and actually get that, retirement. Okay, wow, exactly 1,000 tables. How often does that happen? Retired workers. Once you get into these things, they may actually have subject headings where you can see retired workers amount. There's all the dates that they're giving you, states, zip codes. Pretty cool. Okay, that's one zip code, not bad. And it just made that table for us right there. So there's a lot of things you can try on this. I'd say go into Data Planet, try clicking on things, see what you can do with stuff. You all have your topics very nicely defined, so you can use this overall search box. You can also try browsing over on the side when you first open up Data Planet and see if you can find things that way as well. I think, oh no, as for me, I've had really good luck using this overall search box up here. All right. Okay, I promised in the description of my session today that I would tell you how to find industry statistics that we don't have here in the library because it would cost us thousands of dollars a year. Okay, for example, there's an organization called the National Organization of Convenience Stores. Yeah, I mean, it seems like every industry has its own association. The American Library Association, the American Medical Association, everybody's got an association. The convenience stores, I was really interested in them at one point when somebody was doing a fantastic research project about the availability of liquor in neighborhoods, and then how much that contributed to alcoholism by zip code and everything. And they wanted to get sales data on liquor, you know, in a very fine geographic area like neighborhood level, census tract level. They want to know where the liquor stores were and how much sales they were doing in liquor as opposed to the other things that they saw. Well, that kind of information is available because the government collects sales tax on that stuff. So they're reporting all their sales tax, and they have to say, we collected this amount of sales tax on these kinds of things, we collected this amount of sales tax on cigarettes, this amount of sales tax on the gasoline, this amount of sales tax on the liquor and everything else. So it was available. The problem was it would have cost us $1,000 a year to just buy their annual compendium, and although they did provide it, they reported it. We couldn't afford their publication. But there was one time when there was a federal hearing in Congress, some congressional committee they were studying something, and they held a hearing. They invited witnesses, one of which was a representative from this national convenience stores, organization, and they were happy to provide all their information from their secret, statistical compendium that costs $1,000 to buy. But they provided it to government because they wanted to convince the government of the need for something or other. So, small the story is, if you're ever looking for statistics and you can't find it anywhere, sometimes those organizations will report it, they're happy to report it in one of these congressional hearings, which are recorded word for word and are all available in our ProQuest congressional database. You had a question. I know you had a question. I had you in mind. I just wanted to.
Yeah, I was thinking because the thing could be married to sources of data or cross-reference to sources of research. If we did that, and then maybe the number of UIs and zip codes.
Yeah, right. That's what so many people end up doing. It's true. So many people do that because sometimes there's not one perfect data set that asked all the questions you wanted in one data set. I mean, that's obviously the holy grail, right? But if you can't do that, then you take census information from over here by zip code, and you get substance abuse information from a different agency by zip code, and you get and you get all by zip code. Says here's what's happening zip code by zip code. For sure. Okay. Okay. Finally, sometimes I do this last when kind of probably a person should do it first. Look at the secondary sources. Look at the articles that are written on your topic and see what those people used. look in the bibliographies of those articles and those books and see what government sources they use. Maybe that's it. That might save you hours of time. It's just amazingly. And then finally, I knew that I had a few people in here who were studying different topics. I could tell from your registrations that I used the Outlook to figure out what your majors were. And I knew I had some people here who were in health management and personal financial planning. And then the data lab. I've already told you about the data lab thing, so that's, you know about that. You personal financial planning people, I wanted you to know that I have made a website, personal financial planning guides for data sources for you guys. And I actually pulled out all the ICPR subjects having to do with personal financial planning, and then provide nice links over to Roper and ICPSR, and then some places where you can find additional data about personal financial planning on the free internet places. So just be aware that we do have that website for you. And I don't think we have any health people here today, but close a few of these. That was the other one I wanted to let the health people know, that I did a similar thing for those guys. And Survey of Consumer Finances, that's for your financial planning people as well. This is the Federal Reserve website where they have all of that information about how much people are saving for retirement. And you can download actual data from them, and you can do your own number crunching to see how old people are and whether they're male or female and everything else. And yeah, okay. I've got 2 minutes until the end. Has anybody got any questions further? Anything for the virtual people? Do they have any questions? Okay, I think anybody in person? I hope, so many different people with different topics. I hope that you all got a little something out of this. Remember my contact information. I'm Marie Concannon. Let me show you my page so you can write down my contact list. Contact us. Stuff. There's a lot of us here. Okay, so this is me. This is my contact information. concannon@missouri.edu, or my phone number is 882-0748. So let me know if you want more individualized assistance. Thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.